Northeast Iowa. That was where I made my home. And I didn't learn those values by myself. I saw them lived out every day. And so I grew up in a little town of Kesley, Iowa, 80 people. There's probably more people in this room than in my hometown. But there was 3 streets, north and south, and 3 streets, east and west, a handful of houses, some small businesses, and a grain elevator. And that was home for us. And so it was a great way to grow up. My dad owned a lumber yard, and he was one of the small business owners. And he got, the majority of our family made a living because he did business with farmers. And so farming was all around me. The grain elevator, about a month from now, there'll be wagons and tractors that come down Main Street with grain. And the dryers will be going, and all the chaff will be going, right? There's an implement building an implement business just down the way. It was just a great way. So farming was all around me when I was growing up. But this is also special to me because it incorporates Iowa football. And just like farming had a difference in how I grew and how the man I became, so did Iowa football in this university and this program. And I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to be coached both by Coach Fry and by Coach Ferris, and saw both of those men firsthand, as well as their staffs. And I really feel like the ANF sticker represents and why they chose it. It represents what's best about Iowa. It's what's best about our people. It's what's best about our farmers, what's best about our businesses, what's best about our families. And I think it's really a cultural icon that people have gotten behind because they're proud of where they come from. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's become so popular to wear the brand and to make it bigger. And so anyway, I personally in my own life, I've spent time reflecting on where I come from. And so I knew within minutes when I got the call that I was going to be honored this way, that I was going to share this honor with my one remaining grandfather. The other 3 grandparents are gone. They've passed on. And I've learned a lot from both of them, both sets, my grandpa and grandma Niemeyer and my grandma Kampman. They've all influenced my life, but that's why I'm excited and really grateful to be able to share this with my grandfather, Grandpa Kampman. And so he'll be here Saturday night. He's almost 92 years old. He'll be here Saturday night and get an opportunity to share this honor with me because Grandpa is a true farmer. He spent his entire life on 200 acres in a farm in Butler County. And he raised pigs and cattle and chickens, and he row cropped corn and soybeans, and he made hay, and they had horses, and he took care of his farmstead really, really well. It was meticulous. He took a lot of pride in that. And that's how Grandma and him made his living. And so I just have great memories of working on Grandpa's farm, from feeding cattle and walking beans, feeding pigs. We baled hay, fixing machinery, whatever it may be. I have a lot of great memories about that. One I wanted to share that's vivid in my mind, because I think it encapsulates it, is we had a bunch of family that came. We had to bale hay, and we had a bunch of family that came, and there were some neighbors, and it was the afternoon, and we all sat underneath the shade tree, and I still remember Grandma coming out with bologna sandwiches and little cream cookies and lemonade, and we had just done a lot of work. The hay was literally in the barn, and we all sat there together, and there was something about that is special. And so as a young person, I really believe I caught and I observed some certain things. I saw that hard work is necessary, and that if you don't do the work, it doesn't get done. And so the reality of the fact that if you need to straighten out your creek, you can go ahead and do that and fix it. If you need to clean your fence row, you can take out those trees and shrubs and get it done. If your field's too wet, you can tile it and get it fixed. And a family is important, and that attitude matters, and so does your effort, and that do things the right way. Be honest with people. These are all things that were the ethos of the community and the family that I grew up in. And so these lessons, essentially, they're what makes Iowa so great, and it's really why my wife and I decided to move our family back to this state, because we believe that it's important just like my grandfather passed on his values to his children, one of them being my father and my mother, and how those now are in our family, and how we're trying to do that to our kids. It's one of the reasons we're back in this state. And I believe that's what makes the farming community strong, and in turn makes our country strong. And so I really feel like that's why ANF is such a great way to represent the Midwest way of life, that we work hard, that we work together, and that we try to get better every day. And so I want to thank the Iowa Farm Bureau, thank Mr. Craig Hill, I want to thank the Iowa Hawkeyes, thank Coach Fry who came up with the idea in the first place, Coach Ferentz for reestablishing this great sticker, and for really the people of Iowa, the farmers of Iowa, for making it a reality. So I want to thank you again for being able to represent these values, and with that I'll open up to questions.
Aaron, what attributes maybe did you see on your grandfather through farming that you might have carried with you with your days at Iowa and throughout?
I interviewed him, this was a while back, this is about 4 years ago, and it struck me at how hard he worked. They just didn't have, you know, he tiled his fields with a horse and a plow, and if it wasn't deep enough, they dug the rest by hand to lay clay tile. You know, they made fence posts out of limbs and things like that, and they just worked so hard. And yet he said, son, you got to learn how to treat yourself once in a while. So I still remember we'd get done working, then we'd clean up, and then he'd take us into town to go get a bite to eat, get a sandwich, you know. So there was that balance, but it was still, you know, so hard work. My grandfather is all about integrity, and he wants to do things the right way. He'll tell you this day he's not a perfect man, but he sure tries, and he tries to live that way. So I feel a very strong connection to my grandfather.
Any significance to you that I was playing Wisconsin considering you got so much in Green Bay?
I was in Wisconsin in the last 2 weeks, and I had to be careful, you know, about what I was saying. And I really appreciate the people of Wisconsin. My wife and I, we have great memories in that state, but I definitely know who I'm cheering for this week.
Looking back when you were recruited, you did have a ton of offers. Did you ever seriously think about going anywhere but here?
I did, to be honest with you. I thought about Nebraska for a while.
Okay.
Yep. Because at that time it was between Coach Fry and Coach Osborne. And then Coach Osborne retired the day before my official visit. And it made it very simple. And I was going to go play for Coach Fry.
Was it a tough decision when he was still there?
I didn't know. You know, you're a young kid. You're trying to figure out where do you want to go. I had one coach in the recruiting process tell me that where you're going to go play college ball is the third biggest decision in your life. And it is a big decision, especially when you're a young kid. And so, but it was between those two. And I'm so thankful that we chose, I say we because it was a package deal. I was pretty, my wife's back there. We were pretty serious all the way back then. I asked her to marry me at 19. Believe it or not. That wouldn't be our desire for our kids. It worked out for us though. Anyway, my train of thought there, I wasn't talking about Iowa and Nebraska. I think the reality is I'm so glad I came to Iowa because we went like this for a while and then we went like this. In Nebraska, in my opinion, started to tailspin a little bit. And so,
I'm sure it means something to you to be a part of that initial rebuild under Kirk.
It's extremely significant. I have a lot of memories in my NFL career, in my collegiate career, in my high school career. One of my favorite all time is that I feel like we left this place better than where we found it. And that I had a chance to be part of that. There was a lot of guys. It wasn't just me by any means. There was all kinds of guys. You know, Coach Ferentz and what we built. My sophomore year, we were 1-10. We go to being 3-9. We were a better football team than our record indicated. I still remember beating Michigan State. You would have thought we got a Rose Bowl bid. You know, that's back when the student section was in the northwest corner, and they waterfalled over, you know, and we just won a Big Ten football game. But it was the first one we had won in a long time. And then the next year to have a winning record and win the Alamo Bowl again, not a BCS bowl game, but to win in dramatic fashion. That's one of the most satisfying moments I've had in my career.
What was it like for you as an NFL player to face you know, whether, not necessarily head on, but guys like Casey Wigton and Jared DeVries, Brad Meester
In the NFL.
in the NFL.
It was always fun. I mean, these are guys we went to, you know, we were messing with each other in the hallways, you know, of high school. And so you don't really think about it when you're playing. It's not like you're coming in on a stunt and like, hey, Meester, I'm going to get you on this one. You know what I mean? The game's too fast and too quick. And, you know, but after the game was, I think the special part was, I think all of us have some pictures with one another after the game. We're tired and sweaty and just spent, you know. And we got pictures together, you know, with arm in arm. And that always means something.
What was the biggest lesson that Iowa football taught you?
That's a tough question. Always be your best. If I had to boil it down, always be the best version of yourself. You learn to compete. I learned this as I continue to go on in my career, but you're always learning to compete not against the guy across from you, for the guy inside of you. And I think that's one of the lessons that hopefully was part of what we were part of building with the culture here, is that you're competing every day. And you either get better or you get worse. And it's really what it is. It's kind of like the farming, right? There's work that needs to be done. You either do it or you don't. And you got a decision to make. And I think that's part of something that's still ingrained in me to this day.
Anything else, Ryan?
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you.